You are the leaders of our party, and I thank you for taking your time and spending your treasure to come here today. Between now and when the gavel drops to adjourn, the delegates in this arena are the Indiana Republican Party. With that as a backdrop, I hope that you better understand the honor and responsibility I feel playing the role I am over the weekend. I promise you that I will not leave this stage without spending some time stumping for our incredible statewide ticket and for Mike Braun and telling you how he is going to beat Democrat Joe Donnelly. But I also want to take some time to talk about our recent history here in Indiana, celebrate where we are as a party, and focus on how we take the Indiana Republican Party to the next level. To begin, some historical perspective is necessary. For the 16 years prior to 2004, you might remember that Indiana Republicans were in substantial exile from the State House. Democrats controlled the governor's office, and their failed agenda had Indiana severely on the wrong track. The election of 2004 began a change. Governor Mitch Daniels challenged Hoosiers to aim higher, and we responded. He helped turn the fiscal fortunes of the state around in short order using discipline and ingenuity. He jump-started much-needed infrastructure improvements with major moves and created the Indiana Economic Development Corporation to ensure that Indiana would be competing for every major job opportunity in America. From a significant deficit to close to a $2 billion reserve, we aimed higher and all Hoosiers responded. Of course, next in line was Mike Pence. As governor, he wanted to continue the momentum and take Indiana from good to great. In his 4-year term, he successfully implemented one of the largest tax decreases in Indiana history. He started Indiana's first funded pre-K program, and critical to the success we are seeing across the state, including what you are literally seeing all around you here in Evansville, Governor Pence created the Regional Cities Initiative. We certainly went from good to great. And our Republican legislators played a huge role in the comeback as well. Along the way, our Republican numbers in the Indiana House and Senate began to grow. And soon, Speaker Brian Bosma and President David Long found themselves presiding over Republican supermajorities. As Indiana charted its comeback under Republican governors, at each critical step, you can see the strength and consistency of our Republican legislature as the thread tying it all together. And if you thought that backstory was good, the second act was unbelievable. Donald Trump tapped Mike Pence as his pick for vice president, and they had an overwhelming victory that put another Hoosier in the White House. Eric Holcomb became first lieutenant governor and then our governor. Governor Holcomb is working to build on the success of the past by taking Indiana to the next level with laser focus on job creation, workforce development, and fighting the opioid crisis. He wants Indiana to stand out in its approach to government. Instead of strict partisanship and animosity, his objective is to build policy from a foundation of civility. Like his predecessors, his efforts are working and moving Indiana towards that next level. With that consistent track record of success, it is not surprising that Hoosiers continue to look towards members of the Indiana Republican Party to lead this state in elected positions from township boards all the way to governor and U.S. Senate. It's not a clean statewide sweep yet, but it is a substantial majority of all available positions. It is clear that Hoosiers like what they have seen from our party, so much so that they have entered into what is a rare and in some ways a sacred trust with us. They have given us the keys to governance of our state in election after election. But with that authority comes responsibility, not just a responsibility to our fellow Republicans, but a responsibility to all 6.6 million Hoosiers. We have long been the party of purpose in Indiana, and as Governor Holcomb said in the State of the State, we are all about people, 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 those who voted for us and those who do not. That leads me to the question I ask myself every day, and I know all of you think as well. What is next level for our political party? We have a great history to be proud of, but we can't rest on our laurels. We have to answer the question of what's next. What group will be the next one to come into the Republican tent? Who will be the next great leaders of our party and our state? Given the limitations of time, we can't get into too many of those details this morning, but I want to answer some questions by offering a few ideas to consider that might be ways that our Indiana Republican can get to that next level. First, with respect to growth of our party, as political leaders, we must be constantly looking for ways to grow the party. That focus starts with those who have not yet been brought fully into the fold behind our efforts. To do that, we must recognize that Indiana is becoming more diverse, more urban, and is always the case, every year, another set of young voters cast their first ballots. It is imperative that our party grow and evolve at this same pace. At the same time, let's celebrate our success in engaging women to run for and serve in public office. That success is well documented and fully on display here today with our all-female statewide ticket. For contrast, unlike our party of purpose that delivers on its promises to all Hoosiers, Democrats have offered urban and minority populations empty promises for decades, rarely if ever delivering on any of the promises made. Many of these urban neighborhoods are still struggling with unemployment, drugs, gangs, and crime. As perhaps the state's most glaring example, Indianapolis set a record for murders in 2017 and is on pace, unfortunately, to break that record again yet this year. If you look statewide, Democrats now only enjoy success in these more limited urban areas and in a few college towns. But it is in these areas that we see growth, and that's going to continue to grow, making them critical regions for the growth of our party. Democrats have mentored minorities and brought them into the ranks of party leadership. This places them in positions where they are regularly in communication with these communities, and unfortunately, I can tell you, regularly telling them why they should distrust and dislike us. This has to change. We have to take a different and contrasting message to these urban and minority Hoosiers, and we have to follow it up with action. Thankfully, we have a great example in the room with us today in Governor Holcomb. He has long recognized the need for diversifying and strengthening our party, and he proves it every day in who he brings into the administration to fill important roles. But there's always more to do. So as part of our discussion on how we take our party to the next level, I add a challenge to each party leader in this room and those who couldn't make it today. When we get to Indianapolis for our 2020 convention, I want to see increased diversity among us. I ask party leaders across the state to look for ways to increase minority participation in your local party activities. And as you have successes, I want to personally know about them so that I can share them with the rest of the state and we can learn from each other and celebrate them. But the burden to grow isn't just on you, it's also on me and the state committee. So I wanted you all to be the first to hear that I intend to set as a high priority with the state committee an effort to increase minority participation in our party's leadership structure as well. I intend for that to include us exploring ways to have minority participation at the state committee level. And as we requested from our local parties to report out success, we will in kind be regularly communicating about the efforts being made at the state level. On the other side of the equation, we must also find ways to ensure that our rural heritage is protected. Communities across the state are struggling to retain or attract residents. But for Indiana to get to the next level, our rural strength must be maintained. As a party, we need to support initiatives that give rural communities the tools they need to compete and stay strong. As young Hoosiers decide where they want to live, we must ensure that they continue to see our rural communities as robust and viable places to raise a family. While we have good, strong rural representatives across the state, we need to push to maintain that historical participation in our party for decades to come. The last demographic that we have to put additional emphasis on to continue to grow the party is our next generation of Republicans. Around 100,000 Hoosiers will turn 18 this year and each year after that. We need to find ways to connect to this generation that was born with an iPhone in their hand. It will be up to each county to find ways to outreach and encourage young folks to learn about the Republican Party. At a statewide level, we are using the focus on the 2018 elections to help deepen our bench and grow the party. We have already recruited 33 college interns with financial support from Senator Todd Young, and we will have another 27 field staff, as Rhonda discussed earlier, at a minimum, all of which fit into that next generation of leaders. Everyone in this room and others across the state have done the work and made the sacrifices to get our party where it is today. But it will be this next generation. It will be this next generation that ultimately decides how long our Republican legacy in this state lasts. As we work towards growing our party, I want every Hoosier to know that while they may not agree with us on every issue, they are still welcome here. Because unlike our loyal opposition, we welcome conversation and debate. In fact, this past week, as Republicans across the state weighed in on our party's platform, we demonstrated the key difference between the Democrat Party and ourselves. We welcome differing ideas. We welcome vigorous debate. While the media likes to frame everything as an intra-party conflict, I've been encouraged by this debate. It's highlighted the diversity of thought and opinion within our party on not just the topic of strong families, but many others, and it's that which makes us strong and able to continue to grow. We value the true democratic process of one person, one vote. That will happen here shortly with respect to our platform. I will stand firmly behind and support the decision that is made today by you, the delegates. And like we have rallied behind Mike Braun post-primary, we as a party need to rally behind our final platform as well and charge as one team into the November elections. After all, that's why we're here. We have to look over the horizon and answer the big questions about what's next, but we also have to simultaneously focus on the task right in front of us. We are lucky this weekend to be making Hoosier history in two different ways. First, we are hosting our convention for the very first time in Evansville. What a great host city. But more importantly, we are nominating for a second time an all-female statewide ticket. Of course, we did this 4 years ago as well. It still had Connie Lawson and Kelly Mitchell, but instead of Tara Klutz, there was Suzanne Crouch. Seems like she's turned out all right okay too, doesn't it? Connie, Kelly, and Tara are a remarkable team, and they are helping to take not just our state, but also our party to the next level. I believe, I heard this week, I couldn't tell you their names, that they now have opponents. They've been looking for a long time. I trust you will all put in your time and effort into their campaigns as you have in campaigns over the past 14 years of proven Republican leadership. Losing even one of these offices will roll back far too much of what we've already done. Now, before I get to what I'm actually supposed to do and introduce our governor, I want to touch on our party's #1 priority this election cycle, You might wonder why I spent so much time on the other topics when this is our priority. Well, achieving our goals this year will require growth and outreach to black and white, men and women, young and old. Every Hoosier needs to hear from us if we're going to win in November. But make no mistake, the most important race, the reason why Chairwoman McDaniel was here today, is the race to defeat Democrat Joe Donnelly. And I am completely, 100% convinced that Mike Braun is the man to do it. He provides a contrast with Joe Donnelly that is becoming clearer and clearer every day. Mike Braun is a conservative Republican. Joe Donnelly is a Pelosi, Schumer, Obama, Clinton supporting Democrat who votes with Bernie Sanders 80% of the time. Mike Braun has built a successful career in the private sector. Joe Donnelly has been running for office and losing a lot of them since the 80s. Mike Braun will stand with President Trump and Vice President Mike Pence, while Joe Donnelly only casts the right vote when it doesn't even matter. I'm excited about this race because I want Indiana to be the firewall that protects our Republican majority in the United States Senate. We have always answered the call, and I expect we will again this year. Having said that, it remains clear today that the Indiana Republican Party remains the only party of purpose in this state, and we do look after and care for all Hoosiers. No one more so than our next speaker. He is taking Indiana to the next level, whether here at home or as he takes Indiana to the world and brings the world to Indiana. He is focused every day on the pillars that are set forth in this year's platform and upon which he bases his style and focus of governing. Please welcome to our stage our Governor, Eric Holcomb.